All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about pre-impact, impact, and post-impact, okay? So it gets a little dicey. It depends on where your club face is at, where your path is coming into the ball, where your swing direction, I should say. Okay, so here's the deal. If we had an absolutely perfect actual path, or swing direction is different, a swing direction coming into the ball, it would be zeroed out at low point. And low point, what I mean by low point is when you're making the divot, okay? So unfortunately, we don't hit every ball at low point. We have angle of attack, so our path gets affected depending on the angle of attack, okay? So we're looking right here is to understand what the matchups are, okay? So here's the deal. Let's say we're talking just a stock, perfect golf swing, which there's no such thing, okay? We take it back to here. What I like ideally for most players, if that's toe up, I like it about 15 to 25 degrees closed of straight up and down, okay? Now, if it's in that position, I like to look at some checkpoints here. That button is in the middle of the leg. This left arm is on your right leg, okay? And this arm is into a curl, okay? So I'm lifting curls. It's straight curl. It's not this way or this way when the shaft's parallel to the ground. Have I seen players here that are good? Yes. Have I seen players here that are good? Yes. Okay, we're talking stock positions here. So as I come into here, there's your stock position, okay? Now, a lot of players will come in with cup and then they get it down here, okay? Or they have weaker grips and they'll get it down here, or stronger grips. So there's a lot of different variations we're looking at. But I'm talking about forget grip, forget everything. Let's just talk about your grip starts at a neutral position and you have an impact right here, okay? Right dead square, okay? So we're going from here, faces down about 15 to 20 degrees. As I turn, this is a checkpoint, into the ball, I'm not pulling my handle forward, I'm not releasing. I am, from this point, I am turning my body to impact. So you're gonna watch me come in here. Now, was there any ulnar deviation? Ulnar deviation is a big word for just releasing, radial up, okay? Is there any ulnar deviation? Yes, there is, to get back to square. Why? Because if I held these angles and I turned forever, I'd miss the ball unless I drop down a whole lot, okay? It's the only way I'm gonna get to the ball. Is that possible? Yes, it is, okay? Would I do it? No. Now all of a sudden, I'm gonna get that thing so de-lofted, I'm gonna hit too low, okay? So here's the deal. What you wanna train is from here, rotate into here, okay? Left hand's on the shoe, left hand's back in the same direction that it started in, okay? Here's impact, here's address. Same direction, left hand's on the shoe. Did I push my handle or did my shoulders do it? My shoulders and rotation pushed it forward. I will prove that for you. Hips open, chest open. Chest open, leave my arm behind, but chest doesn't, or the arm doesn't stay behind and I rotate, the handle moves into that position naturally, okay? So what we're looking for is wherever you started to impact is in the same position. Now, if my swing direction was in out or my path was to the right and I had a perfectly square face, the ball is still gonna start on the target because my face is perfect, but the ball's gonna overhook. It's always gonna move away from the path. So the ball will start on target and move away from that path. So what am I telling you? A perfect impact means nothing if it's not matched up with the perfect path that matches up with you, okay? So for instance, I have a path that's 10 degrees into out. I don't want my face dead at the target. I want it about 5 or 6 degrees out to the right. So don't call me on that, okay? So here we go. We go from here, this is where it starts, into this position. We turn, the left hand had to actually have a little bit of a supination down. And then post-impact, most players want to go back into extension, okay? And both arms are straight, okay? So you go bent right arm to straight right arm, everything's going into a straight position. This is the wide position. It's not over here, it's not over here, okay? So some people flick it like this and I'll have them do some of these, but in general, we want this release to come right back out here. Now, if you can see it, that leading edge right here is the same angle as my spine, okay? We'll show you from this angle. This leading edge, same angle as my zipper here, okay? So let's recap. Boom, boom, left shoe, boom. That's where we want to go. Now from after here, we can talk about how the left arm refolds, and it would refold after here into what? Boom, right there, right through the eyeballs, right through at a right angle to the spine. That would be an ideal finish, but we'll get into that later. So after this position, boom, and there's a lot of people who actually go into this little flip position. The ball's gone. The only reason that's gonna affect anything is if you have a flip, is if you're perfect impact and then you flip, and then you back out of one, then you're dead, okay? Or if you're really open, square, and then close, and you hit it perfectly on path and your face is perfect, you can hit it good all day unless you move forward on one or you move backwards. Then the face is gonna be a big deal. But let's try and keep that face very, very passive through the hitting area, okay? So that's probably good for now, but I could also talk about face angle and grip. We'll get into that one next, okay? All right, guys, I'm gonna give you a cool tip on wedges, okay? So I'm gonna show you, if I kept my grip at neutral, you don't have to, you can get a little weaker. I would prefer on wedges to get a little weaker for this example, but I'm gonna keep it super neutral, okay? And I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna keep this swing direction right pointing at this, and I'm only gonna take it to 9 o'clock or P3 here, okay? Shaft parallel or left arm parallel, okay? So here's the example. When I'm taking a wedge, whether my feet are open or square or whatever I'm trying to do, my shoulder line's parallel for most of my wedges. Boom, 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 that's pointing at it, okay? Now I have my same wrist angles here, okay? That means the face is dead square here. I turn through it, it's pretty dead straight on target line, okay? Now, if I wanted to do the same exact thing, I'm gonna give 3 examples. That's with my lead wrist staying in the same exact extension or flexion, it's staying in the same cup throughout, okay? Now, is if I went back here now, did the same exact swing direction, pointed at ball line, and I added flat more, that face is more on the shut side now. And now my release is gonna be more hold turn. So I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna flatten a little, and I'm gonna turn, and now it's gonna go lower, okay? Still went dead straight. The difference is the flight's gonna be different, okay? People go, well, why would you wanna do that? You can use your pelvis. We don't wanna have a lot of leg motion in wedges, okay? You're gonna chunk it, thin it. It's a very delicate thing. It's more for distance control, spin, hitting short pins, back pins, middle pins. It's all changing. So let's keep the swing direction, the plane right on where it needs to be. And now the third example is gonna be the one that I learned back in the day from Tiger Woods, all right? So here's what Tiger would do. Tiger would get his grip, let's say he got his grip the same, he goes here, he actually cups it, okay? As he cups it more, he's opening the face, still pointing it on the swing, actually on the ball line, okay? So see the shaft still pointing there, but I've got a lot of cup, which opens the face a lot, okay? So as I'm doing that, all of a sudden, my face is gonna be very open. So I'm not gonna have a lot of body rotation because the ball would go out to the right, so I slow down and keep my chest rotating as I'm adding loft, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the same thing, and it's gonna hit me in the stomach. And as I do Tiger's move, everybody's gonna go like this. No, keep it pointing at ball line as you add more cup. More cup, back here open, like that, okay? I wasn't trying to hit that, so here we go. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna add a lot more cup to it. 1, keeping the cup, not rolling, and then coming down and adding some loft, okay? So it's gonna go, boom, okay, dead straight again. Completely different ball that's gonna spin, okay, a lot, okay? So now if I added one more thing to what Tiger did when he added cup, I get a weaker grip, okay? Weaker grip meaning now it's not turned from 90 degrees, 45, where most players are starting. I'm gonna start it more my thumb straight down, okay? Now, if you don't understand release patterns and face angle, this is gonna be tough, but for you good players out there, this is gonna help a lot, okay? For a front pin, and I got about 40 yards, I got this grip really weak, face still square, I'm still pointing it on ball line, but I'm adding all that cup. Now my face is even more open. Now I'm actually having to go like this. Okay, I'm keeping that extension throughout that left wrist. Okay, here we go. Why my chest is supporting it, okay? My legs are staying in flexion, okay? Here we go. So I get this grip super weak. I keep this pointed at ball line with cup, not out here or rolling it or over here. I get it up here, boom. I come back down and I add some scoop. So really open, and I shanked it. That was pretty awesome, okay? So let's do it again. You're gonna shank your first one, and I'm not too proud about that, but it's all good. Here we go, get it weak again. We go here, boom, cup it up, boom, and boom. Here we go. Boom, okay? So that's gonna actually be a really, really spinny ball. So let's do it again. Now that's gonna take some practice for you guys trying to hit, and you can add more speed because the face is so open, which is gonna create more friction. Boom, we're gonna do one more here. Boom, okay? And that's a money ball. If you can't see that ball, but that thing's gonna spin back like crazy, okay? All right, so that will help you guys out understand how to create different heights, different trajectories, different spins, and how to do a stock shot and how to do not a stock shot. All right, guys? Good luck. All right, guys, I'm gonna teach you some bump and runs, pitches, some flops, but really we're just gonna keep it simple on the little shots around the green so you guys aren't having problems with contact, okay? So the first thing is when I used to start and hit a bump and run, I'd start my shaft right here, and then I'd move into this. Look at how far above the club is above the ground because I pushed my handle forward, my arm shorter, my right wrist is an extension. So I'd start here and then go like that for bump and runs. That's impossible to create consistency because you don't know how fast the ball's coming off. You have to drop too many things going on at once, okay? So what I would say if I was gonna hit a bump and run, take an 8-iron or a wedge if you have to. That's what I'd recommend so you don't have to move the shaft forward, but you're like, okay, I'm too lazy to go get my wedge or 8-iron of the bag. And I want to play it back. I want to get my handle forward. I don't want to start it here because then I have to move and drop to get to the ball. Start your handle here, get your pressure, your belt buckle forward, and get your head forward, okay? Mine always wants to do this, but straight up and down, get everything forward, and now you just go up and down, and you don't have to push your hands forward. And once you get here, it can come back at you, okay? You don't have to go like this forever. So we're gonna start here, boom. I didn't have to drop down at all. Okay, it was very, very simple, easy, predictable bump and run and without dropping down. Now, if I want to hit a pitch shot, I wouldn't start here and then go like this. Okay, that's ridiculous too because now I elongated the shaft. I have to stand up to add any kind of loft. So I'm going to try to stay more vertical with the handle, and I'm going to try and take it back and return it and get the cup back at me. Keep my natural angles in my wrist and cup it right back and hit just a normal pitch. Okay, that's just a normal soft pitch. That's the easiest way to do it without trying to get everything crazy. Now, as far as the more of a lofted shot, there's so many ways to do it. I have big swing ones to get them up high, and I have longer decel-y ones that flop, but a stock little pitch around here, I'm gonna get this handle back, and I'm gonna get the shaft open a little, or the club head a little bit open, and I'm gonna return my loft with my chest supporting it, okay? That's the way I would do a little soft flop around the greens. Keeping the knees in flexion, okay? You don't wanna go into extension on this because you'll miss the ball, okay? So you wanna keep your knees in flexion, and you wanna keep you want your chest to support it, handle here, boom, little soft one, okay? That's the easiest way to get those ones around the greens, okay guys? You got those three, you got a bump and run, a pitch, and a flop, all right? Good luck. So if you get a player who doesn't have a good release, I'm gonna show you what I want them to do. So we're gonna take this over, and I'm going to set this here. I have a lot of players who start out with this stick, and all of a sudden they get this stick and they go, okay, George wants me to do this because I keep doing this, okay? I keep releasing early. So how do we control this right here? Okay, they start going like this and they hold off, and look at that left hand. It didn't have any kind of flexion or any supination there, okay? So where's the face? Wide open, so let's illustrate this. So they get over here, jump over on this side for me. They come right over here, and they're in this position, they go impact, and then they go, okay, I wanna come in here, the hand's here, and they go, I wanna hold this off. Where's that? That face is wide open, this is over there. So they need to learn to curl this back down from here to here. That's the key right there, curl it down. Now, a guy with a really strong grip doesn't have to curl it down at all, does he? No curl down. If you have a really weak grip, you have to really learn to curl that down to get back to that position, okay? Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay. I got a lot of good players who do both. Now, this stick is meant for you to rotate without hitting yourself in the side, okay? So as I come over here, I get players who shank it, they hold off and they go like this. They're like, did I do it right? I'm all, no. So how do you do this right? Here's how I'd suggest. You hold this thing on the side. Let me get a smaller one. This one's too big. And I come over here and I go impact, left hand on the shoe. Back to address, impact. Now, post impact, this thing's gonna go behind me. My armpits are gonna be tight. I'm gonna rotate so it'll look like this. It's definitely not gonna look like this, like a flying wedge. I would much rather not see a flying wedge. So it's gonna go boom, here. And I just get a little feel for that. Boom, perfect, okay? So my arms are extended. I'm only hitting, I hit that exactly rolled out to 80 yards. I'd rather see you fly at about 50 yards. So I'd rather see you get the motion. Now, I'm gonna show you the problem with this thing. If your face is open here, what are you gonna wanna do? Square it up. So make sure we get this face in a good position. Make sure we're rotating and letting the club go behind you. We're not holding on for dear life. Now, why do we not, if we got a D-loft, do we not wanna hold this D-loft off? Now listen to the sound difference compared to, there's a huge difference in sound. Now, did I flip that over? No, I just went into a straight line, okay? So, and then I refolded, okay? So that's the reason I don't want a flying wedge. You'll get a max D-loft, but it's a speed loss, okay? So, here we go. So as we go, let it go behind you. Watch again. Armpits are tight. Good. Very, very simple. Now, excuse me. Here's another problem I have with this drill. Kids swing it way too hard. All the way up here, they hit themselves in the side. So what do they start doing? They start avoiding it by getting their butt to go back. They're getting ghost punched, okay? You can't see the ghost, but they're punching them, okay? So what we want to do is we want to punch the ghost with the pelvis, okay? Watch this. Boom. See that right there? You want to have this thing go behind you. Boom, right there, okay? So is this the action? No. We already know, if you know me, I want it to go around. I want to see some of that butt. And then you can kick. The pelvis is in the direction of the camera. It's not this, okay? Those are completely different actions. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate one more time. Impact. This is what you guys should be doing. Impact, back to here, impact, post-impact armpits tight. Boom, perfect. Okay, it's gonna hit the flag. Boom, did it? Close enough, here we go. So here's another problem I have with this drill. You start slinging it inside and you try and do this and you hold on and turn, that's gonna be wide open. You come over the top, boom, you need to keep this thing on plane, okay? So how do you keep this thing on plane when you're doing this drill? I'm gonna put this on the grass. I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna try and aim this at the orange flag. Now, what I'm gonna need you to do is I'm gonna need you to stand in line with this so you can have a demonstration and right behind it. So I'm gonna put this right about here. So hopefully that's close enough to going at that orange flag. So for the viewers who can see it and they think that it's not on line, bear with me, all right? Here we go. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take it back to here and I'm gonna have this here and I'm gonna point this at ball line, at ball line, at ball line. And if I got long enough, I'd be parallel, okay? Can it be inside it? Yes, sir, it could be inside. Can it be outside? Yes, it could. I'd rather it not because then that means the face is gonna come in open. We're gonna have to do something. So what we wanna do is we wanna have this thing right up, point at it, parallel, on it, and turn. And how far do I wanna take this drill back? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock max. And all you guys are gonna think you're doing it, but you're not. You're gonna be taking it back to 10 and going, this drill doesn't work. And you're gonna have welts on your side, okay? So this thing is not meant at full speed. It's meant to understand how to get back to here, okay? Boom, that's how easy that drill is, okay? So throw me one more ball, please. Gracias. Okay, so we're gonna take this and we're gonna go boom, 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 pointing right at. So I'm just gonna do a little chip again, right there, okay? So that's down the line and that's as hard as you need to swing it. You want me to do one more? I'll do one more. Okay, so the drill is keep it on plane, and sometimes I'll look and I'll go, God, I'm doing this drill perfect. And I'll look on video and I'm coming down way too far under, okay? And I wonder why I feel a little bit of a tick on my side is because I know the ball's going right unless I release it, okay? So then I go, okay, let's get this one a little bit more vert. and that's better, okay? That's right down the line of the orange right there, okay? That might even have been a hair cutty, which is cool. So in a nutshell, learn how to do this, okay? The main thing you gotta understand is get the face at 25 or 15. Now, if you're under the plane or something and you wanna play a draw, then obviously the face will be right of the target, okay? If you're hitting a cut, obviously you don't want your face dead at the target. You want it a little left, and your path would be a little left of that, okay? So a draw, face is out to the right, wherever you want the ball to start, and the path will be a little right of that, okay? And how far right? It's a 1-to-1 from the path to the face to the target, okay? If you don't understand that, look up ball flight laws, or I'll do a whole section on ball flight laws, which is probably a good idea, okay? So here's what we're gonna do again. Watch the release as I come down. For most players, they add flexion at this point, or they have Dustin Johnson, they're already flexed, or they're Hogan and it starts to do it gradually. Okay, I don't care where it gets, when it happens, if you're cupped here, if you're bowed here, we got all theories that, hey, this has gotta be square to the form. Some guys say it's square to the back. I don't care. I don't care if you're here, as long as you're somewhere on plane, okay? I don't care, okay? What I care about is you get into the slot, and at this point, we're 15 to 25 shut, and then from this point on, you are turning the body, and you have a little bit of a release. When this goes into flexion and we have a little release, watch what happens to the left hand. It goes into a natural supination, okay? You're not trying to flip it over. You're just going here, release and turn, left hand's on the shoe. This will go right back at you into extension of the wrist, or you could keep it flat. And some players go like this. I don't care, okay? As long as your ball's going where it's going and you're getting optimal D-loft, I'm cool, okay? So, and in general, I get guys that are too far out here, and I get guys that are too early. This is a perfect one to let it go right behind you, okay? That should be good. All right, here's the deal. We're gonna talk about how much open you should be, why you should be open at impact, and what exactly or how exactly it's affecting anything, okay? So here's the deal. If I get a player, like let's say I was teaching Jim Furyk, okay? Which I'm not. If I got a player like Jim Furyk and I dumped the club behind me and I had no rotation at all with either shoulders or hips, my swing direction would be way out to the right. So let's put a number on it. Let's say he's 10 degrees in to out. Where's my face need to be? +5, okay? It needs to be at a 2-to-1 ratio. 10 is to 5 is to 0, 2 to 1, and that's gonna be very hard to control face angle, okay? So the rotation is gonna have a lot to do with, as I come in and I throw a Furyk and I'm way dumped under, Furyk already is starting to rotate his body. What that's doing to his swing direction is it's bringing it more on target line with rotation, okay? Now, we look at Rory. Rory's arms are the same exact thing. They kind of suck behind him. It's got a lot better, but they suck behind him. And you'll notice that his chest is about 50 degrees open, okay? Which is one of the most open on target, which I love. It's a perfect matchup, okay? So golf is all about matchup. So if I said, hey, there's a perfect degree, then I get shot, okay? And the reason I get shot is because you look at great players with all different types of chest, hips open. It depends on where they're coming in. So if a guy's coming in from over here, would I want him to be fully rotated? Probably not, okay? Not as much. I'd fix his swing direction first and his pivot first, and then I'd add rotation to it, because what rotation is doing is obviously it's creating speed, okay? It's also having control in your face angle, meaning when your body stops, the club releases. There's no face control. It starts closing every time. You're gonna start doing something with your hands to try and manufacture a straight shot, okay? So it not only helps face, it also helps compression, okay? You stall out, the club releases, adds loft, whether you want to call it a flip or early release, it's doing both, okay? So what we want to do is if we take it to here and we rotate, we'll be able to hold our D-loft a little longer, which equals more distance, okay? So when we come into here and I had a stock model, I say stock model because don't hold me to it, it's what I teach, but guess what? I have a lot of guys who do it all different ways, okay? And there's a lot of different matchups like I just said before. Here we go. So as we go to the top of the swing, I already know where my degrees are. I'm not gonna get into that, okay? As I come back down to right about parallel, which we call P6, okay? And if you look at my hips here, they're about 30 degrees open here. Some guys are 15, some are 25, some are 40. So don't quote me on the degrees, okay? But what I'm saying is my stock model is my chest is about square here, or a little closed, but I'm gonna say square right here, and my hips are open about 30, okay? So at this point, as I come in, my separation between the two is 30 degrees. At impact, my chest has gone 30 and my hips have gone to 45, okay? Whether that's illustrating it here, that's where I try and do. Okay, so I'll look at guys on video and I'll draw a line from target to the chest or the shoulders, and I like it about 30 degrees open, hips about 45. That would be a good stock model to try and work on, okay? After that, I'd like to see hips and chest square by right arm parallel, okay? So when you're working on this and you're looking at it and you look like this into impact, we got a problem, okay? When we look like this, then we don't have a problem. You're gonna be a lot better off. Now, if you're already over the top and you're doing exactly what I said, I'm betting on it that you're actually coming with your upper body forward, okay? So your pivot's off. So that's a different story. Just because you have the degrees right doesn't mean your face is ready for these degrees, meaning your face could be open right here. And if you open your body, you're gonna block it right. So what are you gonna have to do? You have to stall out to square the face. So face has everything to do with this rotation also. Swing plane, I'm dumped under and I start to rotate. Guess what? I go 15, 30, guess what? Or 30, 45 at impact, I'm dead, okay? So it's all about matchup. So if we're assuming that you're doing what I'm telling you and your hips are open and your chest is square and you're right here, then we have a very good chance to just rotate. So if you look at a hockey player, he'd be right here. Do you think he's gonna stall out? No, he's gonna hit himself in the left foot with the ball. So if you're in this position, super close like a hockey player, what is he gonna do? He's gonna rotate, he's gonna be a lot more open than most. But if this thing is wide open and I actually start to rotate, that ball's dead right. So I'm gonna have to stall out like most of you and square that face. So let's get your body in a good position, or the face in a good position, so you can hit 30, 45 at impact, okay? That should be simple enough. GG Swing Tips here. This is a question I get asked a lot, is release. What is a release? Is it a flip? Is it scooping? Is it holding on forever? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear up some things for you guys today. So a release to me, and it should be to you, is impact. The left hand should be on the shoe, ideally, unless you're trying to actually get a wedge up or something like that that's appropriate for a higher lofted shot to like a front pin or something. But we're talking about a golf shot, okay? So as I come into impact, my left hand will be on my shoe, and as I turn through, the arm will extend and the club will actually be at the same angle. This leading edge is at the same angle as my spine, okay? So how does that work? So what I'm doing is, as I come into this position, some players are down here, some are here. I like the butt end to be on the leg. I actually like the actual rotation of the body and the left hand to come down just a little bit, and there will be a little bit of this actual, we call ulnar deviation, which is just a big word for release, okay? And they're all matched up at impact, left hand on the shoe. From this point on, my right elbow is bent, and all I'm doing is rotating and extending it. But as I rotate it, I don't need to flip it over, okay? So as we look from this angle, we gotta make sure that we're not too far under the plane, because then we will wanna release it, okay? We wanna make sure that we are rotated here. The back side here is the right arm's bent a little bit. We're gonna turn into impact, okay? Now all of a sudden you can see that my chest is open about 30 degrees. My hips are open about 45. That's about a stock model. It doesn't have to be on the number, but I'm giving you some good checkpoints or good guidelines. You're coming into here. Now from here, all we're doing is turning, okay? I don't need to pull my arms across my body. All I'm doing is throwing, boom, or punching, okay? And that's all that's happening with the release. As far as from the face view, what would I do? I take some little chips and learn to do this. Now, a lot of players are trying to do this angle, which is called a flying wedge, which is great practice for a lot of people who have release problems, early release, okay? But all we need to do is hold this right wrist and turn, but we don't want to hold forever. We want to let it go behind us, so it'll look just like this. Okay, that's exactly what it's going to look, both arms straight. Now, Why do I not want to hold it on forever? Listen to the sound. Okay, that was a de-loft, which is going to create distance, but that's losing a little speed. So now we're looking at when we come up and throw this back into extension, not holding on forever. That doesn't mean we're doing this, but what we're going to do is here, and then we're going to throw. So it's going to go, you're going to hear a lot more sound there, okay? And that is me swinging the same speed with just letting my punch go, okay? It's not like me throwing a ball like this. I'm throwing it like this, and then I'm actually throwing it, okay? So that would be a great release drill for you. Just do little hoppers here, make sure the armpits are tight, and it's going behind you. That'd be a great start line for you guys. George Gankus here, GG Swing Tips. What I want to show you guys is I use this drill a lot. This is exactly what almost every great ball striker I've ever grown up with uses, and what it is we're trying not to hit ourselves in the side with this, but we're not doing it by pulling our arms in front of us. If you look at somebody who's pulling their arms in front of them, they have to activate their wrist to do that. So what I really want to do is teach people not to have to activate their hands. I want to teach them to get in about this position here and really just turn into the shot, okay? Left hand will be on the shoe, and then this goes behind them, okay? Now here's the checkpoints we really want to get used to as far as why this drill works for a lot of players. They have to actually have this at ball line, parallel at ball line or steep of ball line. You start doing this drill and this club head moves away from you, you're in big trouble, because now all of a sudden it comes in and you can't release it. It will hit you in the side. So now all of a sudden you're going to come in and shank it. So after you shank it a couple times, you're going to start trying to come over the top to get the face square. So what I'd love to see you do is understand that as it goes back, that points at ball line. That's parallel to ball line. That doesn't mean that your hands are moving further away. It's staying there. Now this points at ball line or inside ball line. And what I want you to do is you're going to hurt yourself if you do it hard. So you need to only take it back about 8 o'clock. This being 9, 8, 7. We're going to take it back about 8 o'clock. And we're just going to finish right here where both armpits are tight. Okay, we're not doing any of this kind of action. Okay, we're just going to keep both armpits tight and turn through the shot, okay? Now here's one last thing to look at as you're doing it. Not only do you want to be in, see that face right there? That's open. A good guideline would be square to the forearm to square to the back. That all depends on how much we're gonna de-loft it, okay? So from here, if the more it's closed, the more I can just turn, okay? So what we're gonna do is keep this thing on the plane and we're gonna turn it right down the line, okay? Simple little like half shots. 50 yards in the air with like an 8-iron would be great. And that's as simple. That'll teach you a great release and you'll be well on your way to good ball striking. All right, guys, I want you to understand one thing about the lead arm and how important it is with the geometry of golf, okay? So just so you can, I'm gonna always explain this to a lot of my players. If I went back 90 with this left arm, my right arm would have to be at 180. And we're talking lead arm at impact here, and I'm explaining something else to this point. If I only went back 30 here, my arm would be bent about 30 degrees. It'd say 150, okay? That's just the geometry of golf. If I didn't turn my shoulder back at all and I got this thing to parallel just like the other ones, my butt end progressively has got closer to impact, okay? I got shoulders, my butt end's way out there when I'm parallel. When I don't have any shoulder turn, my right arm's got shorter, okay? So the shorter and shorter this right arm gets, the more I'm gonna have to go down with flexion or into front bend to get to the ball, okay? The more and more this arm is wide, the more I'm going to stand up, okay? So here it goes as far as on the way, now that you understand the geometry going that way, the more and more that my shoulder starts to go, starts here, goes back, gets back to square by about here, not everybody, some are more closed, then it starts to go up and left, up and left. Now my handle is attached, watch what happens when I turn this, the handle moves more forward. Now, my shoulder's going more up and left, so I better stay in a little front bend, okay? Or I better go down more and then start to go up and left, okay? That would be parametric acceleration, okay? Let's not get into all those weird terms, okay? But that is it's another way of understanding acceleration, okay? So the more we go up and left, the handle's gonna release, but we're talking about something different here. What is the lead arm doing at impact? The more and more this shoulder stops and I try and pull this arm forward, it's going to actually release even more, okay? So the more and more this shoulder moves open, the more the handle is going to move forward, and you're going to get a better dynamic loft or a lower dynamic loft. Now, the more and more I go up and left, I better release that handle, which would be good more for a driver or if I want to hit a ball higher in the air, okay? But understand what brings the handle forward is me rotating that chest, gets that left arm to go into, because I'm attached with that. Look at, I just turned my shoulder, where'd my arm go? Forward. I've got a club here. Now, I don't get my arm to go forward this way and then this way. I get it to go boom. Now, the only reason that I'd stop this shoulder is to square the face up. If my face is open and I open, I'm gonna go like that. So I have to slow that down, square that face back up, add loft, and that's not a good combo for hitting the ball far. And it's not a good remedy for hitting the ball pretty straight or solid, okay? So what we want to do is understand that this lead arm is attached to here. So the reason I showed you that 90 back here to here, same thing with here, the more and more this is open, the more this right arm is going to be short. The shorter the arm is, the more I'm going to actually have this cool look that all you guys are trying to look for. But that's all dictated by this lead arm, this lead shoulder. If it's not opening up, what's going to happen? Let's say it doesn't open up now. You're going to actually go this far forward, and then the club's going to start to release. And the more it's stuck in here because I didn't open up, the more I'm going to go, oh, I got to square this, the more I'm going to start jumping and adding loft just to square the face. So this lead arm, lead shoulder is a big deal, and understanding that that's where I want to get it, okay? Now, it depends on where the grip's at address. Left hand on the shoe, really work on getting that thing in that position and understanding the chest being open is a big deal. And how much it goes up with the handle and left depends on how much you're using your legs. You'll have to release the shaft for the higher ball. The lower ball, you're going to be down more. And there's so many matchups at the bottom. I won't spin your brain right now, okay? Let's keep it simple. That's it. All right, guys, we're going to talk about impact positions and a lot of common questions I get asked about the left hand. So when I played and I started playing, all I would do is, depending on where my grip was at, it was really weak when I was a kid, but I'd get into impact and I'd say, wow, that left hand started at the target and went back to the target, okay? So I was like, ooh, that's impact. So there's my left hand, and I come over here and go, impact, and I'd get that thing to point right back at it, and it was perfect. That was my impact, okay? And before you knew it, I started getting a stronger grip. Stronger meaning this arm's turning over here. And the stronger and stronger it gets, if my arms hang at 45s, not everybody's do it, depends on, you know, how wide your chest or whatever your situation is. But most players' shoulders relax, their hands hang at 45s, okay? So that's being straight, that being 90. So as I come in here, my arm started actually going a little bit further. Now, is that pointing at the target anymore? No. So when I try and point at the target, what's that doing? That's getting the face super shut, okay? So wherever the back of your hand is, you want to return it at impact, okay? So if you saw me over here, you notice that I didn't have as much work as someone who was very weak. Weak meaning left hand more at the target, back of the left hand, as a guy who has to curl it back down in this position. Now, there's a lot of players who come in here and get it back at the target but add a lot of loft. Okay, that's back at the target but added a lot of loft. And then there's some guys who try and push their hands forward and it doesn't curl back to where it should. Those are the lower ball hitters, okay? Dustin Johnson. All right, so what we're looking at is, where does the left hand need to be? It depends on where it starts, okay? We're gonna try and return our hand back to its position. So if it started here and I had a really strong grip or a very neutral 45-degree grip, it wouldn't be at the target, and at impact, it'd be pointed in the same direction but forward, okay? Now what's moving it forward is rotation, okay? It's gonna move it. There's a lot of players try and push their hands forward, but as we go up and left, the hands are gonna come out, hand path going left, but really, impact is right about here for a lot of solid players. Now, if I didn't have as much speed as a tour player, I wouldn't want to get my handle that far forward because then I'd hit the ball that low, okay? And I'd be like, I can never hold a green. So it all depends on what your situation and your speed is, but a normal stock player who I'm teaching always wants to get the hand somewhere around the left shoe. And the more and more closed the face is, the more and more the handle gets forward to that position so it doesn't overhook, okay? So the guys with a weaker grip, meaning here, tend to always try and add more loft, and then that makes them stand up. And the guys who stand up tend to add more loft so they don't have a good impact. So the lead wrist, I just want it to return to its original. So how much bow is there? Compared to this, they're completely different positions, but both are square. So keep it that simple and understand that if I had a neutral grip, that's pointing at you. To get to the left shoe, it has a little flexion, and a little ulnar deviation causes some forearm rotation, okay? So wrists work in threes: flexion, ulnar deviation, which is a big word for release, equals forearm rotation. So how does that work at the bottom? A little bit of flexion and a little bit of this downward equals forearm rotation, which got me right back to here. Now flexion and just turn gets my hand still going out there. If I just actually don't have any flexion and I release, I would have to have my right hand turn to get my face back, okay? So there's all these weird matchups that we're looking at. Flexion, a little release to the left shoe equals forearm rotation back to its original position, and let's keep it that simple, all right? And it is that simple, all right? So work really at, this is how I learned, wherever my hand was, impact, 30 degrees open with chest, hips 45, pressure about 90 here, left hand on the shoe, depending on the club, of course. Go back to first parallel, turn back in there, go back to first parallel, boom, and just do a lot of those and learn your impact, and you'll start compressing the ball. That's a good way to do it. All right, guys, peace. All right, guys, I hope you checked out the left arm and how it correlates to the right arm, okay? So they go hand in hand. If I go back 90, I said the arm's gonna be 180, okay? If my arm only goes back, my shoulder goes back 30, my arm's gonna be bent around 30, okay? It could be bent less if what? If I actually pull my arm back and this thing goes into this kind of a boxer elbow or runner's elbow compared to someone who does a phone elbow. So there's all these other variables, but like I said, let's keep it simple. So if I turn back 30 here, my arm's gonna be bent about here. So now, if my arm's bent this much, I know how much is bent on my arm. As I turn, my arm is here about 30 degrees. This thing bends, my shoulders are about square. My right arm is bent about 60 degrees, which means 180 minus 120 equals 60 degrees. So almost every one of my players' arm is anywhere from about 100 to 120 right here. So 100 to like 100 degrees is about here, 90 is here, about 100 to 120 is where most of my best players are in the history of all the best players in the world are. So that means that if you went up to the top of the golf swing and it was 90, it would straighten down about 30 degrees. Did you technically do it? No. As you did it, it got sprung down about 30 degrees. So that's going to say 120 right there, okay? So the trail arm from here has 60 degrees left in it, okay? Now, if I start to go up, I'm going to be at 180 at impact, okay? If I go really low, I'm probably going to keep that thing bent 60 degrees. So it depends on what your body's doing, which is going to dictate what this does and what this does, okay? So the more and more I start to go up, my wrist angles, that extension is going to be gone, my right arm's going to extend, and I'm going to be at 180. So where do I want my players to be? It depends on what they want. Do they want to hit the ball low? Well, if you were like Dustin, you'd be a lot more bent and turn with this chest, and your handle would be right in here, and then post impact, it would straighten. And some players go this way more, and some still hold that flying wedge. It just depends on what kind of shot pattern you want, okay? So for me, let's keep it simple. 120 here, it's got 60 in it. Most players have about 20 to 10 degrees of bend still in it, which means it's straightened down from this 60 about 40 degrees. You won't even notice it. Watch this. The more and more I stay in my flexion, it's going to stay there. The more I start to come up, the more that right arm's going to release, and the more right arm releases, the more loft I'm adding, and the more it straightens, the more my body's going to go up and I won't turn. The more I turn, the more that chest is going to open up. The more that chest opens up, the shorter the arm's going to be. This goes open, my arm's going to be more bent. This closes right here, the arm is going to straighten, and you're going to actually try and make room with your body to square that face up because you're so far from the inside because the chest didn't get around. So remember, always go impact about, let's just make it a guideline here for you guys, because I know you guys want to be dogmatic about this. You guys want to have guidelines and checkpoints. Left hand on the shoe for a stock shot. Right arm bent about 20 degrees. Go back, this will say 120, which means it's 60. And into that position. Got it? Now you guys got it, all right? All right, guys, we're going to talk about wrist movements, wrist conditions, okay? So here's what we're going to look at. Just so you guys understand where I'm coming from, I'm not trying to throw big words at you, okay? But they're anatomical terms that most pros are using, okay? So if I hinge my wrist straight up, that's called radial ulnar deviation because we have a radius and an ulna. So what we're looking at is here we have pronation, supination of the left hand, okay? The left arm or forearm, okay? Pronation, supination. So always remember supination, holding sup, okay? We also have flexion in the left hand and extension of the left hand and extension of the right and flexion of the right, okay? So here's the deal. I was always taught that this was palmar flexion and this is dorsiflexion because that's what I was always told, and dorsi's the foot first off. So can you use it? Of course you can use whatever you want to communicate with somebody, but the real proper anatomical term is in this position, this is extension of the wrist, okay? And this is flexion of the wrist, okay? I've always called it bow and cup, whatever you guys want to call it, okay? But now you understand the terms, okay? So we're going to talk about the trail wrist angles, okay? And the movements of the wrist coming into impact, okay? So as we come into the ball, there's some radial, there's some forearm rotation, which would be supination, and there's some extension of that wrist coming into the ball. Okay, we have all these angles, and if you didn't, you could have them more here, or you could have them more here, and guess what? You would have not as good contact, okay? Your impact wouldn't be good. But if I said, hey, we're gonna take it, there's your impact, do I have any radial? Well, it depends on where I start from, right? Okay, but let's just say I start here at address, I come into impact, my arm's still bent, my right wrist, is it really turned at all? Do I have any, that'd be pronation or supination. Have I done any kind of forearm roll into this position right here? No, not really, not from address. You're just seeing more of a neutral position into extension of that wrist. That's it, okay, there's your impact, all right? Now, at this point in my golf swing, I have a little bit of radial deviation, I have a little extension, and I also have a little bit of forearm rotation, which is supination, okay? Just a little bit, okay, of the right hand. It'd be pronation of the left, but we're gonna talk a trail thing. So we're in this position. Now, the more and more I start to do this, I'm actually doing what? Adding more forearm rotation, okay? With this extension, okay, that's getting you more in, and we have some radial deviation. So as we come into here, watch what's happening. I'm actually having to turn my body. I'm actually adding a little bit of this to it, okay, which is ulnar. And I'm also, as I'm doing it, I have some forearm rotation. Now, I didn't go like this and take all the extension out of the back wrist, okay? What I did is I just took a little bit out of it as I went downward with some release as I turn. And now you've got that position right there. So there's just a little bit of stuff going on as I turn, boom, that's it, okay? Now, if I put them both on together, flexion, you don't have to. Flexion with a little bit of release of this way is going to equal some forearm rotation, which is going to get me into that position right there. So it's a very small motion. I wouldn't honestly be thinking about what all these technical wrist conditions are, but if you want to detail it out, those are the positions of the wrists and what the forearms are doing from this position. Now, last thing I'm going to show you, as you come in and you start it up, this is your front bend. You turn, that club is square to my front bend. So if I start bending over a little bit, that's square to my front bend. If I had a driver and I was out here with it, it would be a lot more up with the face because it's more parallel to my front bend, or you can call it my back, okay, back line. But if I bend over more, it's going to be a little more closed. So as I come in, depending on where I'm coming from, it's square to my back, and as I start to turn open, my arm will be bent about 60 degrees. It'll say 120 here, okay, for a lot of players. Some are bent more, but let's just call it around there. I'm going to turn, and I'm going to have a little bit of this going on, but not much, right there, and I'll have a little bit of, as I do that, my form will release, and that's what's going to bring my hand, the right hand, to pronate a little bit, okay, with a little bit of radial, or I'm sorry, ulnar with that. Watch this. So it goes, face is there, a little bit of square, boom. And that's what's happening with my wrist angles, okay? And there will be a little bit more extension in that right wrist, which means there's most likely going to be more flexion in this wrist. And then as I turn, I'm not trying to do this, I turn and the club actually releases, and that would add extension to that left wrist, and that means there'd be more flexion in the right, okay? Post impact, but we'll get into that later, okay? And that's about as simple as you need to keep it, which isn't simple, but it can be. Peace. Okay, so I see a lot of people ask me the same exact question about the right side or the right hip or the right knee or the right leg, okay? So people go, well, why wouldn't you want to fire this right leg with the left? You're losing power. Well, that is not true at all, okay? The difference is the more and more I rotate the right leg, a lot of players will get more rotation, okay? The problem with it is as soon as I do this, I get rotation to here, and then I've got a lot of stall out there. My right side of my pelvis drops. So you'll see a lot of the guys here, and then boom. And usually when they do that, their chest gets stuck and the swing direction goes out to the right. Okay, so what I want you to do is understand that I'm actually loading the right leg as the left one clears in transition for a reason, okay? My right leg coming, we're talking impact here too, by the way, okay? As I get this to go external, I haven't gone internal, I haven't fired it yet. I'm getting ready to fire it. What do I go into flexion for? So I can use it, okay? That's the reason my leg goes into flexion, besides the fact that I can't rotate when I fire it too quick because I get into a tilted position with my spine and my pelvis, okay? So as we get all the way around to here, we're in this position right here. Now, after I got to here, this is when I'm going to start to push or just turn or whatever I'm going to try. This is where I'm trying to fire my right leg internal, okay? It could either go internal this way, it could go in with the push, it could be like Justin Thomas or Rory, or a lot of guys, or Sam Snead, who jump up on this leg, or a lot of women actually jump up off this leg, and a lot of them are doing that to get height. But none of them are doing it from the start. They're getting around. So as they go up, they still have some dynamic loft. If I went up right away, only way I'm going is adding loft, okay? So they're going down and around for ground pressure, and then this right side's firing. So after the left side's cleared, the right side's ready to, it's loaded into flexion, okay? Not flexion internal, but flexion external. And now it's gonna go internal and push off, and this left side's going back, boom. And that's gonna actually clear it up. So it'll look like this. Right leg's gonna go out and around, okay? So it's gone into flexion, but around brought this look of it going out that way and the left hip going back this way. Now it's gonna go, I feel like this goes this way and this goes, the left leg goes back, okay? And that gives you a whole area. Look at that. That whole leg's coming right at you, okay? So what does my right side do at impact? It goes around to here. Now this one left leg's going into more of into this position, and the right legs get a little push, and now this right knee is moving into here. That's what's moving my divot forward too. Rather than if I just stayed here, I'd hit back here unless I really learned to push my handle forward, and that's gonna be hard for a lot of you guys, okay? All right, so that should do it for the right leg at impact. Peace. Guys, so what does this left hip do at the point of impact? All the stuff we're talking about right now is impact. I start here to address a good kind of guideline checkpoint would be my outside ankle bone, depends on how wide I am. The wider and wider I get, the more people feel like they have to move here. The more narrow they are, they're already up against their hip joint, so they don't really have to put a lot of pressure forward. So let's keep it pretty stock here. Let's get our feet about shoulder width apart in the middle of feet for now. Well, let's just keep it that simple. I won't get too detailed. So as my hips go around external, okay, boom, and each leg, that keeps my pelvis really level. My pressure is 50-50 depending on how much right lateral bend I have, okay? Not this way, but still here. That keeps me centered to about what we call P6 here, okay? Now, I could actually, as I'm turning around, a lot of players, like let's say Sergio, stays in flexion and he pushes off a little bit later than a guy who pushes right away, okay? He's pushing into that left side a little bit later, but staying in flexion, which means his handle is going to be lower, because if he kept it forward and he started to stand up, he'd never get to the ball unless he released his angles, okay? So Sergio is much more into a flex position, so is JB Holmes. And the more and more we hit into a flex position, our angle of attack is going to be more down, and our swing direction post-impact is going to be more left, but they'll offset each other, okay? So all these matchups, depending on the height you want, but for most players, I want to see it into flexion, start to come into a little bit of extension at impact with the left leg, not fully up, because then I'm going to release my angles unless I have a whole lot of front bend. This is front bend. And as soon as you understand that the legs go up and you add flump, you're going to add a lot of loft to that shot, okay? So get them around to here. We're going to push off this and go internal. This will go back this way. This will go this way. And you're going to try and have a guideline here where you're going to move right into that wall. Is it completely straight? No. Can it be? If you're hitting a driver and you want to get the ball up, okay? But right here would be a good kind of guideline here. You're not too flexed, because the more flexed, we're going to be up about here, left hand on the shoe. Hip will start to open up a little bit, and then post-impact by here, I want to get those square, and that thing will go back. So impact, I want to feel like it's around about 30, 40, and then 45, 50 here at impact with a little bit of up. Left hand on the shoe, chest open. And you will have, depending on what you have here, you'll have a little right lateral bend here, or you'll be coming up and releasing angle if you want to hit it higher. So like I said, let's keep that part of it pretty simple too, okay? Does that All right, guys. So listen, there's a lot of matchups on impact and where we can go, but you're going to see a lot of impact is dictated on what your body's doing or what the club face is doing into the ball. So if I gave you an example, if let's give you a solid impact, okay? A solid impact, first off, would be if I turn my chest open, my left arm's attached, hands attached to this club, the butt end of the club. As soon as I turn this chest open, the handle's moving forward. I could move it back there, but naturally it wants to. As more and more I move this way, the more and more I move this shoulder here, the hands move to the left shoe, okay? That would be an optimal impact, okay? And now if I am someone who swung at 60 miles an hour max, my optimal impact would be more here, okay? Now why? Because I need to hold a green, okay? If I'm Dustin Johnson, I could go past this left shoe because I have enough speed to get the ball up in the air, okay? So let's talk about where the matchups are, okay? So a lot of people want to have their chest open, like I say, 30 degrees open, hips open 45. Now there's a lot of reasons I like those numbers, doesn't mean they have to be, is because the second that my shoulders are closed, my club has to release, my arms straighten. The more and more that I turn, the more that right arm's gonna stay bent, and I'm actually gonna get my handle forward, which equals more distance, better face control, better start line control, better path. I mean, there's a lot of good things that go along with it, okay? So impact is gonna be left hip up against the wall. After I've gone around, I'm gonna move into that wall. Some people are more bent, some are straight, some are more up, some are more down, and it all depends on what their swing direction's doing coming into the ball. what their face is doing coming into the ball, okay? But if we looked at over the years of what the best players did, left hand was on the shoe, legs were more into this position, heads were on the original position. If they're with the driver, they're going to be a lot more back here because they're trying to hit more up on the ball. And the more and more we go this way, the handle's going to release. The more we stay on top of it, the handle's going to move forward, and we're going to use a wedge and turn it into an 8-iron, okay? Or a 7-iron. Whatever you're trying to do is up to you, okay? So as far as here, this is an awesome impact, okay? That's where I'd like to be, right about in here. Boom. That's a compressed ball, all right? So do I move there right away? No, I go around, as you know, and then I start to push and turn into this. Sometimes I push up a little bit more if I want to release and get it higher. Sometimes I stay more in flexion, and the more and more I stay in flexion, that left hip will be here rather than someone who went into here or pushed off more. It's going to move your impact more forward, okay? The more up we go, the more we're going to release our angles. Now, why are people matching up all differently, okay? You look at someone who has their face wide open coming into the ball, and I like the face to be square to the front bend, meaning if I was over here with like a whatever this is, 9-iron, it'd be more square to my front bend or my back bend, okay? And if I had a driver, I'd be a little taller, and it'd be a little bit more toe up, so it's more considered square to my front bend. Now, let's say I'm Dustin Johnson, and I say, George, you're wrong, okay? Mine's more closed. What do you think my release is gonna look like if it's more closed? Do you think I'm gonna have it here, or do you think it's gonna be more forward? Obviously, it's gonna be more forward to match up for that closed face. Now I'm gonna hit the ball lower unless I have a lot of right lateral bend to get the ball up. But in general, there's a lot of matchups. So when I say matchups at impact, you got Dustin Johnson. What do you think happened first? Do you think he had his elbow really deep with an open face, and then he learned to close it up? Or do you think it was closed, and then he learned to hold it off and get his right arm to go fully external into this position? I know the answer to that because I asked him. I said, listen, if your face, was it open or closed? He said, well, I like to have it closed going back because I want it to be square to the ball, and then I wanted to hold and turn, okay? And that's just naturally what his release became, and he became one of the best players ever, okay? Or in the world, we should say now, okay? So his elbow is a lot more forward than I like a lot of my players. So my players are more in a curl position at this position. Rory would be even more back, or Jim Furyk could be more back, and some are even back here like this. And those, or a Hunter Mahan would be more back here in his day and really turn, where you see a guy who's really deep usually doesn't turn like a Tiger wouldn't turn. Now, Dustin Johnson's very rotated, but his chest isn't as rotated as his hips are, okay? So what is the best method? All the ball knows is, you know, what it's doing coming into the ball is all it knows is your angle of attack, your path, or your swing direction, and your face angle coming to the ball. And so the point is, what we're trying to show you is there's all these matchups that are dictated by what your face is doing, okay? If my face is open, a lot of players are gonna come over it, and now they're gonna stand up to square the face. A lot of guys are too under and open, and they stall the body out, and that changes your impact completely. So would I start from impact back? Yeah, I always do, rather than letting what I've done here dictate what happens at the bottom. I've always started out with impact and really learning to do a lot of these stick drills, and then everything else is dictated from there. So I've always said impact, okay? Post-impact goes behind you. I'm not doing flying wedges, and I'm not scooping and hitting myself in the side. I'm letting my natural chest and my geometry take it behind me, and now the face is in a square position to my spine. Now, there's a lot of videos that you'll see of me that are like this, and I'll stop my body, it'll close down, but the ball's gone and the ball still goes straight or does what it wants, okay? So all these matchups across the board, ideal impact would be right where I told you, but I'll see a lot of guys who slide back this way and they'd hit back here, they're low pointed back here, but they learn to hold that handle off. Then I'll get guys that have moved their upper body forward and they end up releasing their angles. They're like this and they still hit it solid. So all these matchups, if a guy did this all day and he hit it solid, then you say, hey, listen, your head's moving forward. Let's get you to go back. And he goes, he'd release way back here and chunk it. So eventually, you'd have to teach him to hold and turn in order to get that to match up at the bottom, okay?